Alright, I'm going to start this off with a quick disclaimer. This set of guides is designed to be fairly general and may not include some specifics I've decided were beneath notice or not worth mentioning. This guide will be for the Ruins, which is located on the northern continent, just west of the small meditation waypoint. I recommend this area to individuals with 100 or more total levels, as questing all the way to the bottom can be quite a trial. To prepare for this area, you'll want to bring elemental saves of all kinds, as well as breath saves for the boss on level 6, and possibly a shield for level 2. If you don't have a decent parry and dodge set, or a good tank, it may be worth bringing parry or dodge gear as well. It's also worth noting that without the climbing skill, you will not be able to progress past level 3. The first level of the ruins is inhabited by a clan of orcs. This level doesn't really follow the square pattern that you'll see in a lot of the other levels. Other things to look out for here are berserker orcs and the occasional orc shaman, which will cast chill touch on you. There are a witch doctor and orc king near the end of this level, but neither are required to be defeated before proceeding to level 2. Overall, the biggest risk on this level is being swarmed, and I have seen people as low as level 20 running the orcs for experience. This is also the last level that you'll have a reliable safe room to speak of, so cherish that. Once you proceed down to level 2, it is fairly small and inhabited by kobolds. The kobold war masters cast hand spells which can deal a decent amount of elemental damage, and the kobold necromancers will chill touch you. The remainder of the little fellows will just throw javelins and stones at you. This is where a good shield would come in handy, as it will allow you to block these projectiles. There is a kobold king who roams this level, and as with the rest of the kobolds, he will flee when he's at low health, and sneaks so he can be kinda hard to follow. A good shadow bind or entangling roots can help you with this if you see him. The kobold king loads a pile of gold, which is useless since it'll probably be stolen on level 3, and studded bracers, which load as 2/2 hit damage for arms at fairly low level. 27, I believe. There are rooms with winged kobolds in the northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest corners of this level, where if you loiter in the room long enough, they'll cast fairy fire on you and pull a lever, opening a trapdoor into level 3. I do not recommend entering level 3 by these trapdoors. Instead, find the exit that will be along the northern edge of this level. Make sure you check your inventory for stones and javelins, as the kobolds may have thrown at you and you would have grabbed them, before you go down. This is also a key spot for spelling up and preparing yourself, since it's about to take a huge step in difficulty down on level 3. Level 3 is largely regarded as the most dangerous of the levels. While this may not necessarily be entirely true, as it's fairly straightforward once you find your way around, it is definitely far easier to access than the more difficult levels below, and therefore serves to defeat many a would-be ruins explorer. This level is populated by nagas that cast ball lightning and cone of cold, as well as shooting poison darts at you, and it would behoove you to have slow poison up. Gremlins are probably the most common annoyance on this level, appearing in 2 formats. The Horde of Gremlins was first to populate the ruins, and will attack you with a special procedure that will deal direct damage, as well as stealing any gold you have and fleeing at low hit points. Later on, the Black Gremlins were added. The Black Gremlin variety wanders around and stabs, making them exceedingly dangerous. What's worse is that they will flee at moderately high hit points, sometimes right after engaging in combat with you, only to come back and stab you again. Entangling Roots or Shadow Bind is absolutely essential in winning a fight with them, and it's very beneficial to do what you can to attack them first before they backstab you. Myconids live in the southern part of this level, presided over by a cultist. The cultist and Myconids can be avoided, or you can use their area to rest in if you have fairly high charisma, as the Myconid colony is not quite as aggressive as the remainder of the area. Gremlins and other assorted monsters will not patrol down into the Myconid colony. 3 last dangers to look out for on this level, but of which one will only exist at a time, are the Hook Horror, who has some pretty strong melee attacks, an insane mage, who will cast spells at you and generally be annoying, and the Mind Flayer, who, while not initially particularly dangerous, has a special procedure he will use on occasion where he sucks out your brain, dealing massive damage and potentially killing you outright. These 3 monsters are worth avoiding if seen. Once you fight your way to the western part of this level and find the stairs down, which you must climb down, you will find yourself on level 4. Level 4 is the first of the many elemental-themed floors, and also the first floor that you're required to kill the boss in order to progress. The wind floor is inhabited by gusts of wind, which deal decent damage but have exceedingly low hit points, poison clouds, which will poison you but don't do much outright damage, wisps, which will cast harm at you and are ethereal, and lightning bolts, which will suicide and cast chain lightning if you let them. Having decent zap save, ground up at a minimum, is a bare requirement for this level, as even if you're really fast at your dispels on lightning bolts, it's inevitable that one will manage to activate eventually, and the chain lightning damage can be lethal. The boss in this level is the Djinn. The Djinn patrols the entire level, and while the initial thought might be that his main source of damage output would be lightning, I have found this to be fairly untrue. The majority of his damage output tends to be in a gust of wind special procedure, which he will execute very often. It's my present belief that normal resistance will help mitigate some of the damage from this. The Djinn himself resists poison very heavily and has decent regeneration while being susceptible to normal damage. Once he's dead, a stairwell will be revealed in roughly the center of this square level, revealing level 5. Level 5 is the water level. Immediately change out of any zap save you had on in favor of cold saves, which will be required for a number of monsters on this level. This level is presided over by frozen shades and freezing wind elementals, as well as ice golems. The shades and wind elementals can be destroyed fairly quickly, but the ice elementals can be a bit of a drain on your resources. Also, patrolling this level is a single greater aboleth, which those of you familiar with underwater ruins will remember fondly. Merid, the water elemental and boss of this level, patrols around. She casts Cone of Cold and Ice Bolt, as well as having a Hail special procedure. She is vulnerable to fire, which I figure should be obvious. It's my opinion that this fight is far easier than the Djinn before her, since she doesn't regen nearly as much and can be poisoned. Once Merid is dead, you are safe to proceed down to level 6. Level 6 is laid out slightly differently than the previous two levels, and is basically just a long, winding corridor leading straight to the stairs down. At the start of this level, you can remove your cold saves and start looking at parry and dodge. Defensive fighting is also an option. Creatures on this level include stone golems and earth elementals, as well as wicked gnomes. All these can swarm quite a bit, but the gnomes have very few hit points, and while the golems and elementals swing hard, they also swing very slowly. Which brings me to the boss of this level, who also swings very hard and very slowly. Deo is the earth elemental who guards this level, and once you drop this slow-moving beast, you'll be ready to sneak on past the remainder of the annoyance mobs and drop on down to level 7. Level 7 is a fire-themed level, so start throwing on some fire saves for this level, because it gets fairly hot. You'll also notice some fairly potent negative regen on the eastern and western edges of this area, so avoid those if at all possible. Wandering this level are magma golems and fire elementals, as well as pyragons. The pyragons breathe fire, but they have very low hit points. The fire and magma elementals deal decent melee damage and have very high hit points. Wandering this level is the Ifrit, the boss of this level. The Ifrit may surprise you with his difficulty given how easy Merid and Deo were. Don't let him kill you for your overconfidence. Approach him with caution, as he deals fire damage and has a strong melee attack. Once this grueling fight is over, you are deserving of a break and some congratulations. Luckily for you, that's exactly what awaits you on level 8. Level 8 is a death-themed level, and there are fairly weak skeletal warriors wandering around, as well as a couple adamantium golems who hit very hard, but can be avoided. The boss of this level is a bit of a puzzle to get to, but once you're done turning some wheels and opening some portcullises, you'll come across the boss, none other than an animated Door of Souls. This door will breathe pretty much every element you can think of at you, so put on your breath saves and maybe throw up some elemental shields and have your way with him. The door doesn't patrol, as you can imagine, and since it stays in one spot, it can be a pretty welcome reprieve to chasing around the other bosses hither and yon. Once you break down the door, you'll find yourself in the Vampire Lord's lair. This area is filled with cultists and brutes, neither of which are too particularly dangerous. There's a board here, but be aware that unlike most boardrooms, this one is not safe, as cultists and Bruce can and will wander into it and attack you. On the eastern edge of the lair is the Vampire Lord himself and his servants. I'll leave this part up to you, and good luck.